High-end graphics, everyone. I purchased Jalopy in late June 2016. Here are my thoughts on the game. Jalopy centers itself around your car, a Leica 601 Deluxe Edition. That is where the game got its name from. That's why it's called Jalopy, or Jalopy, or Jalopy. Now, I am going to be brutally honest with you here. There is no real aim to the game. You basically go on a road trip from Germany down to Turkey. The quote-unquote goal of the game is to do it in one run while having Uncle ride shotgun with you. You start off with a little stock Leica in your garage with some spare parts. You have access to 10 liters of fuel as well as oil, a whole set of tires and tools to change them with. You'll need these because after about 120 kilometers your Leica starts to disintegrate. Considering that you're going to be driving multiple thousands of kilometers until you reach your destination, you'll start to understand why I see this as a survival game. Fret not, however, the road will provide for you. As you travel along, you'll find boxes filled with expensive wine, or yarn, cigarettes, or yarn, and medicine, or yarn. You'll also run into abandoned, rusted Leicas. How is that even possible? I mean, they're made from plastics, filled with spare parts. If you're really lucky, you'll find a scrapyard with more stuff to put in your car. Even if you have already gotten a better upgrade, you can still go and sell it at the next auto shop or fuel station for some extra cash. But accumulating cash to keep your car running isn't the only thing you can do in this game. Welcome to Pimp My Trabant. I mean Leica. As you travel from border town to border town, you'll have the ability to go to the local Leica store. Imagine if Trabant had actually been this popular in all Warsaw countries. Here you can really deck out your little race cardboard box. Put in a new carburetor. My money's twitching. In addition to the functional upgrades, you can also add cosmetic upgrades like decals and paint to your car. You can even fix the broken door. Once you're satisfied with your financial stance or upgradiness of your Leica, you can attempt the long road trip. In a sense, Jalopy is quite roguelike. You'll have to go right back to the start if you cannot continue. The only thing that is preserved is whatever you have on and in your car. I like how Jalopy handles the engine. You have multiple parts that serve different functions. A carburetor, for instance, will have an impact on your fuel consumption, the same way a better motor will allow you to reach higher speeds faster. Increased engine wear will of course worsen these effects to a point where it just isn't economical to continue. You can use single-use repair kits to prevent this from happening, as well as a tool rack later in game. Now, Jalopy doesn't really try to overcomplicate things. The interior is nicely modeled. The buttons and switches are mostly doing what they're doing in the real car. I'm kind of missing indicators, but seeing as there is barely anyone on the road, that's not going to be a problem. The second biggest part of the Jalopy experience is of course the roads. Now, while it would be cool for them to be procedurally generated and always different, I know that this isn't true. Before embarking on a journey, a player needs to select a route, taking into account road state, weather conditions, and locations on the route. Question marks is what you want to ideally be looking for when exploring, but a short route is almost always desirable for a turkey run. These routes are built from little areas that are fitted together. This allows a player to experience Jalopy in a different way almost every time he plays it. Germany is still going to be Autobahn and the Czechs are going to have their off-road sections, but no single time in any of my playthrough did I see the same road twice. Littered around these routes can be anything from fuel stations over the aforementioned abandoned cars as well as junkyards. You can also find river fords, bridges, caves and flooded roads, dirt paths that lead to nowhere and abandoned rail tracks. Each route starts from the last city you've slept in and ends at the next border crossing. After a successful completion of a section of the road, the player is rewarded with a shop selling tires, fuel, and commodity items, as well as a Leica store and a motel. After sleeping in a motel, a player can cross over into the next country. Each border crossing displays which items are allowed and disallowed at the checkpoint. Players can attempt to smuggle, but can run the risk of being caught. If you caused havoc while driving in the country, you'll have to pay fines for it at the border crossing. Once you're comfortable with your progress, you can attempt to take to the road with Lutfi. He is the central narrator of your journey, and will feed you information and collectible stamps as you cross through the countries. It also means that he'll whine about everything you do. Pull the window down, it's too cold. Turn the radio up, it's too loud. Switched on your hazard lights, turn them off instantly. The cops are gonna come for us if you do that. And my personal favorite. The biggest two things that drag Jalopy down are the bugs and the lack of content. I did mention that the route layout was a defining characteristic of this game. But did I also mention that even despite this, Jalopy starts to become very monotonous? Sure, it's not the same road, but it's dirt and gravel and there's a bridge and there's that old train house. After having restarted multiple times to get anywhere, you'll start feeling like you've seen it all. Germany is just a route you want to be over and done with. Nothing to see, nothing to find. Czechoslovak Federation is just another route to blow your tires in. Having to trundle 30 kilometers to the next gas station. There are no save points. If you quit, you'll wake up in your garage next time having achieved nothing. Sure, it makes the game more challenging, but it also makes the game so much more frustrating. And boy, does it become frustrating once the bugs hit. Have you ever gotten into your 1980s Trabant Deluxe and fallen through the map? I have, in Croatia, after about 25 minutes of driving there. Does it happen often? No. Is that a justification for it? No, definitely not. I mean, just look at how these two world parts are connected, or rather aren't. Makes my heart stop every time I have to drive over them. Oh, did you notice how I'm at an angle here? Yeah, that's also a bug. New one. Don't even know how I triggered it. While we're at ranting, who the hell said that every indie game needs to look like this? This isn't an art style. It screams I can't be arsed with texture work, so my game is made out of solid, unsmooth, low-poly meshes. And I know it's just an opinion, and perhaps it's not a popular one, but the game doesn't even run that well to justify the subjective ugliness. Hell, when I started this game, it gave me a DirectX 11 high graphics setting option.
Everywhere.
Where the hell is that? Is this high graphics? You know it's 2018, right? I digress, however. Jalopy's positives still outweigh the problems. First and foremost, I love this car. I love the mechanics of it, I love how I can twiddle around inside it, I love how I can upgrade it. Sure, the content ceiling isn't that high, and once you've hit full Carbolite, there's not much left to do. Other than trying to collect a full set of compound wheels, which is god-awful impossible to do, and then they only last about 1.5 Germany and then 20 seconds into Czechoslovakia. But still, I spent 3 hours a few weeks back trying to finally get that tier 3 tool rack. Jalopy really nails the car customization. It's simple, easy, and most importantly, it's fun. And that's why it works. Jalopy works because at core, the game's central aspect is so enjoyable. The centerpiece, the Leica, is an adorable car. It's not a mad sports car, it doesn't go fast, and boy does it have problems. And that's what makes tinkering around with it so great. Jalopy tries to deliver a game that's looking back at a simpler time. Don't get me wrong, this isn't some pretentious 80s were better lecture. Jalopy tries to capture the transition of a back then satellite state to a free, independent one, through the view of an old immigrant. It's a bit like a time capsule, but at the same time it doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. Jalopy presents its story, without much drama, without much acting. Presents it the way it is. As soon as the wall came down, people traveled. The ultimate way of expressing their freedom of movement was to travel. In masses, they traveled everywhere, uniting with families, traveling to places they had not been. The Trabant itself was, and still isn't, a particularly great car. Even at the end of the production cycle, they didn't have power steering or ABS, or any safety equipment. But it had 4 wheels and an engine, and it went everywhere the road took it, and even sometimes where there was barely any road. Unthinkable with today's safety standards. But the Trabant left a mark, and for many, fond memories. A car that was absolutely horrible, but great at the same time. That's the story Jalopy tells. It was just a car, but to a nation it was so much more. It was freedom.